Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootlickers, shills, debt slaves, serfs, peasants, vassals, minions, meat sacks, garbage. I'm usefully welcome. And of course, everyone's heard the story now, the shot heard around the world, Biden calling supporters of Trump garbage. And pretty shocking, even by today's standards. And I think one new evolution we've seen as far as heated political rhetoric is the kind we've seen in the last 15 years or so. And I'm sure there's precedents, but Hillary Clinton, of course, coming out and calling Trump supporters deplorables back in 2016, kind of opened a can of worms. And it seems like this is a relatively new phenomenon because politicians routinely use all kinds of name calling. Trump certainly has no particular hold on that. The name calling and the acerbic rhetoric towards other politicians and their opponents is pretty rampant. But this idea now going after the supporters has really caused a new phenomenon that is pretty disturbing. This whole idea of Trump, of Biden coming out basically saying over 50% of the country are garbage, or Hillary Clinton coming out and saying that over 50% of the country are deplorables. So going after the actual base is a new low in American politics. And there are precedents, certainly, during the election of Lincoln back in the 1860s. Of course, there was a lot of rhetoric flying about the different bases then, because you could easily call people a lot of names if you could basically characterize them as either supporting slavery or being against slavery. So it's out there, but we also live in the age now of social media, and things that are said and done spread really, really fast and cause immediate reaction. So that's certainly a new component that we have now. But this whole idea of nasty rhetoric, I know that the politicians and the media, who of course we can trust implicitly, they try to characterize it that what's happening these days is unprecedented, and that Trump is the instigator of this. And I grant that Trump can get pretty nasty, and he likes to call people names and that sort of thing. But he's certainly not the one that's started this kind of rhetoric. One could argue that at least in the latest election cycles, I would pin it on Hillary. She really opened a can of worms by calling people that support Trump deplorables. And political candidates are often are making all kinds of outrageous statements about other people's supporters and just the population in general. It wasn't bandied about in the news as much as it should be. There's a clip of Kamala Harris claiming that 18 to 24-year-olds in the United States are just plain stupid. So everyone does it. But what I think is interesting is, being a student of history, is looking back and realizing that this kind of political rhetoric and this kind of inflammatory language is nothing new. It's almost a staple of American politics. And you can look around the globe as well and see a lot of outrageousness in politics around the world. There's numerous clips of actual gigantic brawls breaking out in parliaments all over the world. So it's not a gentleman's sport, and it really never has been. Looking back through U.S. history, I made a few notes here. It's kind of interesting because in 1800, voters were told that Thomas Jefferson would destroy the country and promote prostitution, incest, and adultery. So that's a little bit of deja vu. So Thomas Jefferson apparently was the Donald Trump of his time. In 1838, one congressman shot another congressman to death in a duel. In 1856, a famous event where one congressman actually attacked another congressman in Congress with a metal-tipped cane and beat the other congressman. And it took that congressman 3 years to recover. And so one could say that we're actually in times of political gentleness compared to an event like that. And as I mentioned, 1824, Andrew Jackson made accusations of election cheating, and and of course there was a lot of violence surrounding that campaign. And oddly enough, there was at least one assassination attempt on Andrew Jackson. And in 1860s, Lincoln was called an ape, a baboon, a monster, and an idiot, and had stinky feet. And the one paper noted that Lincoln was, quote, a cross between a nutmeg dealer, a horse swapper, and a nightman, whatever that, unquote, whatever that is. Um, and then in the elections also had numerous slurs that sound pretty dramatic even by today's standards. Uh, Oftentimes, opposing politicians were, these are just a sample, were called hypocrites, criminals, tyrants, libertines, anarchists, and one of my favorites is hideous hermaphroditical character. And and also some of these fake news that we see now is nothing really new as well. In 1776, a batch of fake George Washington letters were released to the press, and George Washington, of all people, was accused of being cowardly, scared, and neurotic. And so once again, now they were called them hermaphrodites and neurotics back in the day, and now they're called mentally unstable and unhinged. So once again, this is nothing new. And in the 19th century, oftentimes candidates were accused of infidelity and substance abuse and cross-dressing and treason. So once again, this kind of rhetoric has been with the United States throughout history. And in fact, looking back and reading a lot of this stuff, it's kind of amusing. But enmeshed in the middle of it right now, a lot of people find this rhetoric pretty disturbing. And one has to remember that just like news, people don't want to watch good news; they only want to watch bad news. If politicians got along and were very polite, people wouldn't pay attention to them. But when they come out and call somebody an existential threat to democracy or call them the next Hitler, people pay attention. Unfortunately, we live in times now where just because the indoctrination of people is so thorough and the politicians are so adamant and stay on point and get these memos and these talking points, and so does the media, this stuff gets just drilled into people's heads. So now we have a liberal base that actually believes that Trump is Hitler and is an existential threat to democracy. It basically just simply isn't true. And so there we have it. I think this Biden gaffe of calling Trump supporters garbage. He's not thinking too straight these days, but it's going to galvanize the conservative base even more, as if they needed more galvanization, and it's going to work against the Harris campaign as well. So bad timing on Biden's part, and pretty disgusting thing to say, really. I mean, people have these political differences, but to call half the country garbage, and I've chafed at that a lot. This political division where one half of the country uh, just really thinks the other half of the country is just pure shit and garbage and idiots. And I've seen in my own personal experiences. I can go on Facebook and see friends that call all Trump supporters idiots and morons and fools and traitors and all that other stuff. So it's really sunk in. It's part of the norm now. But the other interesting thing, of course, about the Biden comment about calling Trump supporters garbage is the White House actually has altered the transcript so it doesn't go down in history. And then one of the most disgusting things that's happening right now, but we've seen this for years now. The media is circling the wagons and trying to say that Biden didn't say what he did, and it's on tape, it's on video, everybody can hear it. There's no misunderstanding. So that's another thing that we have to live with now just an incredible hubris and outrageousness of the media in defense of some of these things, and we see it over and over and over. So there we have it. This kind of inflammatory political rhetoric is nothing new. It's not unprecedented. It's just built into the system and is just particularly dramatic these days and is used for political gain, as everyone's seen. Every single thing that Trump says gets blown way out of proportion and a lot of times taken out of context and mischaracterized. And yeah, I wasn't going to do this, but I'll mention a couple things. These things that keep living on that Trump said that he was going to be a dictator starting on day one. Well, he said he's going to be a dictator to close the border, not be a dictator in general. And also when he was saying there's nice guys, good people on both sides, he wasn't talking about Nazis. He was talking about conservatives versus uh, uh, liberals in a college showdown of a statue being taken down. And another comment was this whole idea that he said that there's going to be a bloodbath if he doesn't get elected. And he didn't say that at all. He said there's going to be a bloodbath in the audio industry. They keep pushing this EV mandate. So it's just really interesting how a lot of these things get taken out of context and just have a life of their own. And these lies just get repeated over and over and over again. But anyway, good job, Biden. You really put your foot in your mouth this time. And we were only days away from the election, so all in all, it's probably not going to have much effect, but just adds to your stunning reputation. I'm a useful idiot. Don't you be one too?